Hello, my name is Mark Bowtell, and I'm going to give us a quick overview of PTP training in relation to the wider register for clinical technologists, and I'm going to give us a couple of updates as to new courses here available in Swansea. I'm working in Rehabilitation Engineering in the Swansea Bay University Health Board. And thank you for Doug for help towards these slides. So the UK government came up with a new framework for healthcare science workforce. And the different levels were based on different levels of academic experience, and pathways were set out for such. And colleagues of mine within the field of rehab engineering had a go at putting this all together in one place to try and understand entry-level requirements and the like. And I've left HSST off this one, but you can start to see some of the options available and a potential pathway if people want to follow on from one to the next if they particularly love doing competencies. And all of the healthcare science training routes are underpinned by good scientific practice, and the domains are professional practice, scientific, clinical practice, research, development and innovation, and clinical leadership. And this is set out in the document from the Academy for Healthcare Science. That document also has a go at describing the different roles within the healthcare science careers. And on the right, I've had a go at pulling out some of the words and adding in some of my own, which try to explain typical roles carried out by practitioners and scientists. And at the top of the screen are probably activities more familiar with associates and then practitioners as you go down, and then scientists further down. And there's a lot of crossover as well, so it's not a clear-cut rule, and it just depends on the department and the role that you're in and your experience and your expertise and your desires. And the one word that I pulled out that I thought was worth recognising as common for all is that we're all involved in innovation, whether it be taking forward our services or developing specific solutions. I thought I'd share a little model that I do with some of our trainees to help them think about where they are now and where they might be going. And so you could probably all plot yourself on this triangle and thinking about how the training schemes take you from one place to another, perhaps. And particularly through our healthcare science programs, we're taking people that are often got some technical skills, maybe some scientists, those who've got degrees and the like, and then often bringing them towards a bit more of balance, particularly giving them clinical experience. And another thing that I quite like to look at is the variety of people within a department and the importance of some of us having big picture outlook and others having focus on the detail. And similarly, those that are technically skilled might not be as clinically orientated, or vice versa. And it's so important to have a mix within all of our MPCE services. So I'm focusing on clinical technologists, and there are 2 or 3 routes to how people can develop to be on the RCT register. This register is a voluntary one, but there's desire to make it a statutory one. It's nationally recognised, it's a professional development route, and it's got clear standards, and that means that it can provide protection for an individual as well as an organisation. And as I mentioned, there are 3 routes. I'm going to start with the primary one, which is the PTP programme. And this is often somebody who's got a degree, they've come out of school or college and they've got A-level or equivalence, and they undertake a 3-year undergraduate degree, and that degree has workplace elements built into it. And so that can build up from 10 weeks in year 1 to 25 weeks of workplace experience in year 3. And currently in Wales, there are 3 to 4 places funded for each of our specialties. And that funding will include tuition fees, but can also include support to go on external placements, as well as some bursary opportunities. Here in Swansea University, we have 3 established healthcare science courses within MPCE, and they are radiotherapy physics, nuclear medicine, and radiation physics. As of last year, we now have a rehabilitation engineering course, and as of this September, we have a medical engineering course for those focusing on equipment management. It's also worth mentioning the course at the University of West of England in Bristol for rehabilitation engineers, for example. And one of the reasons that these courses developed in Swansea is because they no longer were open to having trainees coming from Wales. You had to be employed in a health department within England, and we also wanted an opportunity for people without any workplace experience or not already in a work placement to be able to develop into a specialist rehab engineer or medical engineer. So here's the course in terms of the modules, and this might look familiar for anyone who's been involved in any of the other healthcare science programs. And as the 3 years go on, it becomes more specialist. For those that are not familiar with rehabilitation engineering, the specialist areas can include wheelchairs and special seating, pressure management, EAT, gait analysis, and other such fields. Now, another option available is the IPEM Clinical Technologist Training Scheme. And this is typically for those that have some experience or perhaps some qualification, but their qualification isn't in the specific area that they're looking to work in. The other important thing is they have to be employed in an accredited centre, and it has to be a training role that they're employed in. They're similar to the PTP, or those that qualify from the PTP. There must be a level of academic experience, and so often people have a bachelor's level experience or perhaps level 4 NVQ prior to starting on the IPEM training scheme. This is called the education only route because people go in having got the education, and it's a minimum of 2 years. In that time, need to pull together a portfolio, have practical observations, and at the end there's a viva, again aligned with the PTP programme. And importantly, IPEM and the National School of Healthcare Science have an understanding agreement to make sure that there's commonality in curriculum and accreditation. Some people may be required to top up some of their academic experience, and there's potential for HEIW support for some of those elements, but that's not clear cut. So here's our consortium in Wales, and we have accreditation until December 2022. Thank you to Douglas Etheridge for overseeing this accreditation for us. One of the requirements I know is to have a external moderator volunteered from your department if you're involved in this training scheme, for example. So finally, the RCT equivalence. And this is for those that, again, that hold a first degree or working in a post which requires a degree level education, which again probably means you need to have a degree. And it is also for those that have already got that specific experience. And so that experience might be equivalent to what's expected again at the end of the PTP, which is a 2 to 3 year experience in a specific field. You need to show that you've got good English language and communication, as well as degree level maths ability. And so this needs to be put together into a portfolio. So this is somebody that's been working in the field. It's the closest we have, if you like, to what used to be called the grandfather scheme for getting onto the register. And HEIW have said that they offer funding to access education that will enable people to achieve registration via an alternative or equivalence route. And so some funding should be available in Wales. Something that's topical is discussions around streamlining training posts. And this means that trainees would automatically go into a substantive position following a training scheme, which is fantastic news for trainees, but obviously for training centres it takes a little bit of thinking through, because it can be quite hard to guarantee that there's going to be a post available at the end. Our workforce can be quite dynamic, and 3 years can be quite a long time in terms of predicting exactly where we're going to be, and funding needs to be there to ensure that we can provide that follow-up employment. So just to finish by saying, skilled practitioners, we need you. It would be difficult to imagine our NPC departments without technically skilled workforce, and we are completely reliant on many of the activities carried out by those that are technically minded and practically skilled, from design, manufacture, reviewing, planning, audit, the list goes on. Your country needs you. Thank you for your time.